Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another chapter in the Ficklebrott saga. So please turn off your cell phones before we get started. Months ago, we brought you the story of the Ficklebrott Fine Arts Institute somewhere in Texas. We told you the story of the precipitous fall and rise again. At the center of this story was the sheriff of Diddlewad County. His connections accounted for the happy ending last time. Tonight we bring you another chapter of the Ficklebrott story. The sheriff of Diddlewad is still here. Again, the sheriff is very crucial in the story of right and wrong in Texas. And you will meet the new dean of Ficklebrott University. Here's the new episode. This one is called Ficklebrott U Comedy 101. And we hope you will enjoy it. Hey, aren't you the new dean?
Yes.
What are you doing here? You're supposed to be up there introducing those great academics.
Yeah, I am, but to tell you the truth, they are the wackiest group of teachers I've ever seen. My job is to make Ficklebrott name great again. I have doubts about them.
Doubts? Well, I have doubts. They're world famous. They give talks at the best universities. We can discuss this later. You need to get up on the stage and introduce them.
Yes, ma'am. Well, greetings, ladies and gentlemen of Westminster. It's been months since the Ficklebrott Fine Arts Institute gained full university status. We became a world-class, 5-star institute overnight. We are grateful for the piles of money, generous additional funding from the Ficklebrotts. Students from around the world have caught the Ficklebrotts' zest for learning and the eternal search for truth. Before we begin this outstanding seminar, I want to salute the sheriff of Diddlewad County. Thank you for keeping the Ficklebrotts informed as the university becomes the absolute pride of the county. And now, in this echo chamber of excellence, are 4 outstanding academics and their investigations into the nature of comedy. These professors from around the world will answer questions like, does comedy give us permission to mention the burps and the farts of life that usually go unexplored?
Did you say farts? You watch your language and by God, Diddlewad.
Certainly. As I was saying, outstanding scholars will discuss the nature of comedy. Does comedy give us the opportunity to laugh at subjects we don't talk about? Does comedy offer us an opportunity to express what we really think? Please welcome our distinguished panel. First, Professor Archway Tweed from Oxford. Professor Tweed is an expert in Greek comedy and its primitive beginnings. Tweed has traveled extensively, examining ancient stolen pottery, analyzing what the ancients wore and did not wear in early fertility rituals. Next is Professor Heinrich Snittkopf from Heidelberg. Professor Snittkopf is an expert on Sigmund Freud and his essays on the comic. Snittkopf has visited Dr. Freud's consulting room which includes the famous couch where patients talk about their traumas. This is not to be confused with the iconic casting couch, which was established in Hollywood a century later. Next, we welcome Professor Suzette Smack. Those who are familiar with her work at West Texas State know her as Susie, the rodeo champion. Then she turned to comedy when she found that rodeo work was no laughing matter. Smack, an accomplished equestrian, traveled to Europe where she fell in love with the work of Monsieur Henri Roussant, the distinguished French public philosopher. And finally, we are privileged to hear Professor Gus Gushnick from New York. Gushnick has produced a broad spectrum of work examining satire, irony, and profanity. His new book is called How to Win Friends Through Sarcasm. And now, Dr. Tweed.
Delightful to be here today to share my ideas on the nature of the comic. As I'm the premier speaker, I present the granddaddy of laughter, Aristophanes. Aristophanes. A Greek fellow. He wrote in 400 before the Common Era, or as we say in academia, BCE. That was 2,500 years ago. Aristophanes wrote perhaps 40 plays, but we only have 11 now. Who knows? People kept hiding them or maybe losing them. We'll never know. Aristophanes made fun of everybody. Good guys like Socrates in a play called The Clouds, and Euripides, a great writer, in a play called The Frogs. Aristophanes even made fun of Cleon, who was the politician in power at the time. Athens was at war when Aristophanes wrote, and he made fun of war profiteers whenever he could. Aristophanes had lots of sex jokes in a play called Lysistrata, where the women decide the men could make love only if they stopped making war, but could not do both, and definitely not at the same time. And now for some of my recent findings. Comedy began by celebrating man's animal nature. Early comedy portrayed men in animal disguises and, shall we say, exaggerated male profiles. Statues of comic actors from around 400 BC at the Museum of Art in New York show some of these creatures, it seems, not wearing underpants.
Whoa! Did you say not wearing underpants? Not in my county, you don't. You clean up your act, Professor.
Of course. As I was saying, comedy sometimes emphasizes procreation over civilization. Sobriety is forever interrupted by the temptations of the flesh. You might think of Aristophanes a little like that program in the States called Saturday Night Live. Both have racy jokes about the big shots.
Thank you, Professor Tweed. And now a word about Sigmund Freud and comedy. Professor Snitkoff.
So nice to be here today to speak about the famous Sigmund Freud. Now, Freud studied human behavior. He believed that there were three elements to it: the id, the ego, and the superego. Comedy happens when the id wants to say something true, but the superego says no. Comedy provides an abrupt leak or eruption for what otherwise would be repressed.
Whoa, Professor, we don't talk about leaks in Diddlewad County.
Look at it this way, Sheriff. The id is the horse, the ego is the rider, and the superego are the reins.
We got some mighty fine riders and some mighty fine horses in Diddlewad, and I'm, by God, proud of it.
Sexual and aggressive energy are released in comedy, and that keeps civilization going.
A fine horse, a chicken fried, and a beer. That's what keeps civilization going.
Think about a man and his wife. There are many jokes about marriage. Marriage is not easy, and people release frustrations by joking about it.
You aim to tell jokes about fine married folk in Diddlewad? We don't need jokes. Sounds like that Freud critter could have used some barbecue and a beer.
Freud said humor represents the tension between sexual and aggressive tendencies covered over in polite society.
I'm for polite society and against aggressive sexual tendencies.
Ah, Sheriff, people laugh at something they think about but don't admit.
I ain't admitting nothing.
Thank you, Professor Siskoff. Our next expert on comedy is Professor Smack.
Hi, everybody. Mighty fine to be here today. I'm going to speak about Henri Bergson, a French philosopher who wrote about humor more than 100 years ago. I fell for this guy after I gave up those damn horses. I like to call him Frenchie. When Frenchie talked about comedy, he came up with a couple of stimulating ideas. Number one, the only animal that laughs are people. I know there's some talk about monkeys tickling each other, but we're not going to go there. Number two, people like to laugh as a group. Comedy is a social experience. When we laugh together, we all understand what we're not talking about.
What?
And number three, Frenchie said that life is flexible and has elasticity. So, we find it funny when humans act like machines. It's funny because it's the opposite of life.
Oh, come on.
Thank you, Professor Smack. And now for our final academic contribution, the scholar who has just released a highly sought-after monograph called Sarcasm for Twerps, Professor Washington.
You folks think you're big shots because you talk about famous guys like Freud. Well, aren't you the heavy hitters? I don't want to flush your ideas down the proverbial toilet, but you know what the best is of modern comedy? I don't want to disappoint you great academics, but sarcasm is where it's at. You watch social media and you'll see more sarcasm there than there are fish in the sea.
Hey, listen, Gornich. Don't you know that real Texans don't like sarcasm? Real Texans share their beer and their tacos. We're not sarcastic when we lend you a horse when you need one. We're not sarcastic when we make you a margarita even before you ask for it. We're not sarcastic when oh, wait a cotton picking minute. Sarcastic Did you ever have a horse named Sarcastic? Gus, is that you? Did you have that great horse named Sarcastic? We met on the balcony after the rodeo. Oh my God, you little cowboy, you.
I can't believe I volunteered for this. I'll do anything to keep him happy.
Oh my goodness, I've waited so long for this.
Dang, woman, this is getting better than a goat's butt in a pepper patch. You professors are getting out of control. I'm the by God sheriff of Diddle-Wat County, and it's game over. Out of here. All of you, out of here.
Oh my goodness, this is so miserable.
I think I'm going to have to tell the teachers' union about this. Because I never thought I'd be treated this way. Well, I came all the way to England, and this is what's happened. Oh, goodness, yes, I'm definitely going to go to that teachers' union. I have to get the number for the teachers' union, and I'm going to follow through. I'm just going to follow through.
See what I mean, Mr. Narrator? These are the wackiest people, and now they're mumbling about the teachers' union. I'm not hiring any of them for Ficklebrott. We are a 5-star university. We don't need them.
Well, I hate to name drop, but I know people in high places. I have a little tape showing the Pope at the Vatican taking the world-famous comedians, talking to them just a few months ago. Roll the tape. Roll the tape.
I hold you in high esteem as artists who express yourselves through the language of comedy, humor, and irony. There's so much wisdom there. Among all the professionals working in television, cinema, theater, print media, with songs, and on social media, you are among the most loved, sought after, and popular. Certainly it's because you are very good at what you do, but there's also another motivation. You have and cultivate the gift of making people laugh. In the midst of so much gloomy news, immersed as we are in many social and even personal emergencies, you have the power to spread peace and smiles. You are among the few who have the ability to speak to all types of people, from different generations and cultural backgrounds. In your own way, you unite people, because laughter is contagious.
See?
Well, I don't know about
Yeah. Lighten up, lighten up.
that. I still don't feel good about this.
Surely you can give a little slack.
I'm the dean. I'm that under slack. Well, that video, that was interesting. I'll have to say that fella's got a pretty big following. He's even bigger than Ficklebrott. These oddballs may be popular with the kids, but they're wacky. I can hear them lecturing in my head.
Aristophanes!
A night to remember.
Freud!
I don't know what to do with them.
Well, if the Pope can't convince you, how about our higher authority? There's no one smarter than this Westminster audience. they'll know whether or not to hire the professors. Please, dear audience, help the 5-star Ficklebrott University. All those in favor of hiring the professors, please applaud. Thank you. So now all those in favor of not hiring these professors, please applaud. So, these professors, based on the wisdom of this Westminster audience, are hired.
Yay for Ficklebrott. On to the next semester.
And yay for Westminster. That's all, folks.
That's all, folks.
All right, the bar is open.
The bar is open.